Welcome to Madlit Musings, the podcast where you get to eavesdrop on your favorite authors without getting caught. I've been stoked to have authors like Angela Hunt, Bill Myers, Nicole Deese, Tessa Afshar, comedian Bob Smiley, and more on the show, and this year I have another great lineup of storytellers and truth-sayers. If you love to eavesdrop at coffee shops like I do, this is the podcast for you. It's where we get real, we get tough, we laugh, and we might even cry. It's where we meet authors on a different level, where every story and podcast episode has its own heartbeat. So hang out with me today. I'm Jaime Jo Wright, your host at Madlit Musings. This is your podcast for real chats with real authors about real life. Today's episode was brought to you by Baker Publishing Group, with Ravel and Bethany House Publishing as divisions. We're super excited to be sponsored by Baker Publishing Group and to bring you their fabulous authors and their fabulous lineup for 2025. Be sure to check them out at bakerpublishinggroup.com and also check out their online bookstore at bakerbookhouse.com. Hey everyone, it is Jaime Jo Wright here this morning with my good friend Mary Connealy. Hey Mary.
Hey Jaime Jo.
We had so much fun with technical difficulties. I feel like we've been chatting for about an hour now. So
are you the one who's like, give us the first 15 minutes to get it all working, and then
pretty much
to me, I know.
Pretty much. You know, you can never rely on technology to just do what it's supposed to do, because the minute you rely on it is the minute it decides to be a dysfunctional piece of your life.
If you just plan on it, the frustration level drops, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. I figure there's no reason to stress. It's just kind of part and parcel. Part and parcel? Is that the term?
I don't know, but I got a writer friend I'm going to have lunch with in a couple of weeks. I'm taking my laptop and seeing if she can figure out what the heck's going on.
There you go. That's the perfect solution. Oh, man. But you've got a book coming out. I feel like we just talked about book one, and here we are talking about book two. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So book one was, remind me the title.
Book one was called Whispers of Fortune.
Okay, and this one is Legends of Gold.
Yes.
Which tells me we are talking about a little bit more than just golden sunsets.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
I lost conquistador gold or something.
Yes. Oh, so just dive right in. Tell us, what are we doing in this book here, and how does this carry on the story in this trilogy?
They spent the whole first book pretty much deciding there really was something out there. I don't know what, but there's something out there. Okay, now they hunted enough just to find a little bit of something and clues that there's more.
Okay.
This book, they're going out to find the rest of it, which takes a book, but they find enough to keep them going in it.
That's the nice thing with like treasure hunting, is when you find just the little specks of something, it's just enough to say, oh, there's got to be something out there. Keep going. Don't give up.
Yes. So this is the story of Josh, who is the co-owner of the Two Hearts Ranch in California, and the orphan who is grown up in the orphanage, and now she is an adult woman, and she was working at the orphanage, and she was the leader on the orphan train that they were west. And two young men, not children, but not grown-ups, ran away from her and escaped from her. And when she went, and she could not find them, and when she went back to New York, her boss at the orphanage said, we've got somebody really important who funds these things who says you cannot go around losing orphans. You go find them. So she finally finds them from New York City. She finds them in California.
Okay.
My gosh. And then she gets out there, and she's not had a good life. And it's kind of nice out there. And she decides she wants to stay. And her boss from the orphanage, this is all done over telegraph wire, said, you got to get back here right now. You were ready to fire me a minute ago.
I know. Make up your mind. Like, what are you talking about?
Because, well, your father came to the orphanage to get you. And she's like, I don't have a father. And the trouble begins, because she's not a trusting woman on the best days. And now this guy has come and say, yeah, I'm here from your father. I'm your brother. and you've got to come back to New York. And she's just like,
Goodness.
don't let them take me. And that brother is very intense and very determined to get his father what he wants with this girl. So anyway.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, okay. So there's a lot of like stuff going on here. I mean,
I always hope there'll be something going on. That's my goal.
I was gonna say, Mary, can you just give us like a relaxing read where we're not stressed out for 3/4 of the book?
Isn't that just right? And then people, boy, this book was boring. And I'll blame it on you, Jamie.
Okay, all right, perfect. You can just dedicate the book to Jaime Jo Wright, the most boring book I've ever written.
Guys, I've written a boring book. Yeah, we'll see how that sells. Well,
yeah, probably not very well. I can hear the editors right now going, stop talking to Jaime, Mary. Get off the podcast.
And for you, by the way. Yeah, great.
Oh, funny. Well, I know the last time we talked quite a bit about the orphan trains. But I do want to ask, did they actually lose orphans? Like, did you find stories of that?
I don't believe they did. No, the idea was, I mean, they kept pretty good track of them. And if they didn't get adopted, took them back. They took them back to New York in the orphanage. They don't usually run off.
Yeah.
But these boys are a little older. One of them was 15, I think, in the last book. He turned 16 in the course of this book. And he's like, I know married men my age. I know men with children my age. I'm not an orphan. And but they scammed their way onto the orphan train because they wanted to ride west. So
right.
And this lady who's come to find him, Tilda, she's like, because their brother found them in book 1, and she's like, I thought you were orphans. You're not supposed to have a brother. Oh yeah, well, our dad was really mean to us. Our brother was down through. You have a dad? You're the orphans, and it just keeps unfolding like that. And then she's kind of like, you know what? You're a couple of little liars, and I'm not really impressed in there.
Oh.
So those two boys need to do some growing up. So.
They do. But they sound like they were really fun characters to include.
I don't feel like I've done children for a while, but I have. There's been some children, but I always get a kick out of them.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, and I like the fact you've got one that's a teenager too. I mean, that's
they're like 16 and 14.
Oh, perfect.
Boys, they're old enough, to know better, but they're just been scammed all their life, and everybody's like, they'll say what they did, and everybody's like, yeah, you found them. That's them. I recognize them. So anyway, so Josh runs the ranch, and Tilda, once she gets there, they're like, we could really use some more teachers because they take orphans in. So she decides to do that, and then there's a lot of pressure on her to come home, and then her brother, and she's falling in love with Josh.
My goodness! And then we have to throw a treasure in there.
And then there's treasure, yeah. So, and then anyway, so Josh, last book, it was the two that we're looking for was the older brother along with his little brothers, and now it's Josh and Tilda have taken up the gold search because I think the brother who got married last time, his wife is pregnant and she is real sick, and he doesn't like leaving her.
Yeah.
So Anne decides she's really not up to the mountain, climbing into the Rocky Mountains on a horse.
I mean, come on. Some pregnant women would be totally up for that.
It's a tough. She can do it and she wants to do it, but he's like,
I'm sure.
Go to bed and stop throwing it. So
that's fun. That's fun.
Story.
So tell us a little bit about this treasure element to the book.
Okay. One of the things I enjoy the very most about writing is you start researching what was going on around the time, and you find all interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I found conquistadors sailed up the California coast like 300 years before this book begins.
Okay.
And they never found San Francisco. It took them another 150 years to find San Francisco Bay because it was always shrouded in fog.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the Golden State Bridge to look for, so.
They did not. Yeah. Anyway, so they missed it, and that's a historical fact.
Okay.
And the place got discovered 100 and 50 years later by somebody walking, a troop of men walking around.
Oh, really?
They're just like, well, I mean, native people knew it was there, but they weren't anybody. So anyway, but that's my story is a ship got blown off course and was assumed to be lost, and they were left behind, and well, they made it into San Francisco Bay, and they sailed into one of the rivers and that come from San Francisco Bay, and then they wrecked.
Okay.
There's fake involvement. Oh, it's all just great. Anyway, so they're finding this lost troop of conquistadors who were trying to get out of there.
Okay.
And so we what we have is there's a journal that the grandfather sent back east to his family, which, I mean, we're talking like the California Gold Rush. There were no trains.
Mm-mm.
There were nothing. There weren't like Pony Express, nothing. It was, so he mailed them this journal, which is a journey of its own. This has all happened 30 years ago. Grandpa evidence. He's out there hunting for gold and he gets sick of it and he decides to go. He finds this place in the mountains. It's a beautiful meadow and he wants his family to come and join him. His son's wife, and their 2 kids. And so the father runs off to try to find the grandpa's treasure. And in the oldest brother's opinion, he ruined their lives. His father's quest for treasure ruined their lives. He took off. They didn't see him for years. Then he finally came back and was committed to stay there again. And him and his wife had 2 more kids. She forgave him and took him back in. And then he ran off again.
Okay.
But now the older brother's got these 2 little brothers, and him and his mom are just barely surviving. And anyway, the very end, the father comes back and the oldest son is furious and the 2 little brothers are gone and Ma has died. And so the brothers have always loved their father's stories of gold treasure hunt, but the older brother hates that story. So that's what sends them off looking for treasure, and their brother knows where they went. That's all book 1. Okay. Now book 2, they have discovered something and they think, and what's interesting of this book is Tilda is a history buff. It's something she got that she fell in love with. Okay. And so they're asking all these questions about what is this going on? And she's like, well, this captain sailed up the coast 300 years ago. They all look at her like, how do you know that? And anyway, so her love of history is drawing her deeper into this treasure hunt. Yeah. And so I don't know, conquistadors, they weren't nice people. No.
There was a lot of not nice people back in the day. It was kind of like survival of the fittest.
Well, and the not nice people are the ones who made history. So they're the ones who were like, here's the guy who conquered someone. Well, guess what? We remember about that. We don't remember the nice guys who just went to work every day and took care of them.
I wonder what history would look like if we rewrote the history books and we only talked about the really nice people.
It's a pet peeve of mine that history class isn't the most fascinating class in school. Yeah. Because the story of huge events and great heroes, great villains, why isn't that more interesting? They should do that in a way that's more interesting. So
I agree. Well, they make you memorize dates and do timelines, and it becomes mathematical instead of a story.
Yeah, I guess.
Why
would they do a thing like that?
I don't know.
Oh, you're right. So anyway, so she's fascinated by the history. There's some hint of this conquistador thing, which they didn't figure out. And a lot of the stuff is written in Spanish, Old Spanish, which isn't really the same as what they're speaking now. But she doesn't know how to speak that language, but she understands the story of it. And she's just like, oh, that guy did sail past San Francisco, but nobody came ashore. And they're just like, how do you know all this? And then they wanted to be a teacher at their orphanage. She's like, okay. And then their boss to come home and her brothers come. So anyway, Captain Cabrillo was a true person. So I'm trying to find this stuff while I'm researching. And I'm just like, there was a guy right here 300 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun to look into it more. And then you make up edge characters and they're the ones who made that I'm discovering. So
Oh yeah. Well, that's the fun. It's kind of funny though when I think of American history, and the history of California and all of that. I don't put conquistadors in the lineup of characters. I think of the gold rushes and things like that, and the Mexican American War and all of that, but I don't think conquistadors.
Well, we always talk about Jamestown, right? And
Right?
drums and all that, but Santa Fe, New Mexico is way older town.
Yeah.
And St. Augustine, Florida, they're older, and that's Spanish. That's
Hmm.
really so.
Yeah.
So kind of could start unfolding all this really old history that's not what I know about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay. All right. So was when we do think about conquistadors, we think about treasure and gold and violence.
yeah,
So were they really seriously known for treasure and gold, or has that just been sensationalized over time?
I think the main thing conquistadors. This sounds so lame, but conquistadors had armor.
Okay.
They just Indians could not stand up to that. So they
Oh,
and one man could almost slay an entire village,
wow.
and then disease. They killed more people by
Yeah.
bringing measles and
Hmm.
not even diseases that were serious to the Spanish, but were deadly to the tribes.
Right.
So they conquered Mexico, and they weren't nice people. No.
No.
And this is all Cortez. Cortez was the big conquistador, but Captain Cabrillo really existed, and he
Okay.
Cortez, and then they're exploring because they always want to take over more land. So
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So their treasure was probably a lot of the spoils of war, really, as they
yeah,
took
well,
over places.
they sure thought anything they found was theirs. That's for sure.
It's the age-old story of invasion, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really fun studying him, and of course it's so old. So everything they're finding is 300 years old,
Yeah.
and if
Yeah.
there's any writing, it's in Spanish, which the this man who sent the journal back, he could speak Spanish, but he was like copying down stuff he found, and nobody really knows what in the world. It makes this garbled,
Interesting.
weird journal that
Yeah.
anyway, they finally then they don't really want to just ask around, hey, anybody speak Spanish? Because it's a treasure.
Right.
You can't
Right.
just tell the cowhands who obviously speak Spanish. Of course, they might not read it or write it. So
Right.
anyway, they finally find someone who's like reading it, and she's like, I can't even read this, and I'm really fluent in Spanish because it's so old. It's so strange of
Yeah.
writing. So
Yeah.
it one clue after another. It's really hard to write garbled clues
I
because
was going to ask about that. Like, how do you keep track of garbledy-gook?
I don't know. I'm not. I spent a lot of time like typing into Google Translator. This is what I want to say in Spanish, and then it'll tell me. And then I've got a friend who's got a daughter who speaks Spanish. So I say,
Okay.
does this make any sense? And she'll talk about how, and like in Spanish, anything I say, I'm just trying to remember. But
Yeah.
like the noun goes before the verb. He
Right.
fast is supposed to be he fast ran. That's not even a verb. But
Right.
it's not their text, their context, their sentence
Right.
structure is different. So
Right. Right. Well, and Spanish takes so many different. It's like English in a way. I mean, there's different dialects of it in different places.
and then we're
Um,
talking Old English,
yes.
and Old Greek and ancient Greek and stuff. All that stuff we know is very different from the
Hmm.
modern Old Spanish. And then I tried to find out if I could get to the bottom of any of that. And
Oh yeah.
I go down rabbit holes, and then I'm just having so much fun that I just like go write your book. Come on.
So do you have like a whole like what am I trying to say? A board or something where you keep all the clues
No,
and you know how the treasure is going to
when
fit together?
I make notes at the end of the document so that like
Okay.
the last page of my book, there's like 2-3 pages below that.
Okay.
It's names and spellings and what people looked like and because they find like a helmet, a conquistador helmet.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I try not to assume anything because my
Right.
God, well, of course, this is what it looked like. That's not what it looked like. So
Right.
so I've got this whole sort of document running at the bottom, and I kind of go down there and search what color were that guy's eyes again, and what
Hmm.
anyway. Yeah, I don't have, because you know what? When I do that, when I used to have a document like that, then I would change something and I'd forget to go change the document. Well,
Yes.
he was an only child. Oh, wait, I used to, at the beginning of this book, I said he had a little sister who died. So, it's just
Yep.
that.
Yep. I've done that. Have you
So,
ever done where you're writing a book and you're editing another book and then you're probably editing another book and then you find yourself interchanging names from book to book?
you know what I just did? I get those documents from Bethany House
Yeah.
talking title. They call it title and position. So they said write a summary, like a 3-paragraph summary of your book in here, and then write a longer one. I did that, and I realized I was on the wrong book. So I got to go back, and then I fixed the longer one because I knew I did that, and then later I realized I did the wrong book for the shorter one too.
Oh, no.
I did it. And I'm and that Bethany House would be like, yeah, this is Mary. Let's just do to fix it.
I think it's somewhat common because I got one of those and I actually sent it in and they're like, well, thanks for giving us another version of the same book that you already did. We were actually looking for this title. I'm like, oh, oops.
Laugh because I'm like, you're on the wrong book, and then because it's like a year ahead.
I know.
Oh my gosh, she's not on the wrong book. Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
well, and my problem with those is I write them, but because it's so far ahead, then the book isn't completely finished, and then it changes, and I'm like, well, the stuff you got from me before doesn't really apply anymore, so just skip it.
try to get in there before it's too late. They just
Yes.
or whatever. So but I do like doing them. They kind of help me organize my thoughts.
They
too.
do.
So anyway.
Nope, I hear you. I hear you. All right, so this book is Legends of Gold, and it's the story of Tilda and Josh. And then there's going to be a third one coming out, which I'm sure we'll probably get together and chat about too, but that's coming out in October, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's called Riches Beyond Measure.
I'm going to guess they find some sort of treasure.
Well, except, of course, we all know that the riches we're looking for aren't gold. They're the riches of your spiritual life, right?
Oh, so, that's true. That's true.
The riches beyond measure are all of them. They're all pretty nice, pretty decent people of faith. But these two little brothers, just keep them all kind of twisted up, and they're trying to really save them. Because that father ruined his life and his family's life. And these brothers just seem to have the same obsession with the gold. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get the lesson across always that you need to lay up your treasures in heaven.
Yep.
And if you go find enough gold right now to sit down on your backside and never work your whole life, is that the life you want?
Right.
So anyway, that's beyond measure.
I'm not going to lie, Mary. I would like that life for at least a month.
I promise I wouldn't abuse it. I just put the gold somewhere and hand it on to my children, maybe. We got to...
You've heard of that guy, haven't you, who hid like gold somewhere in the US and then he wrote a book with clues and people are actually like spending...
Oh, no, I haven't heard that.
Oh, you haven't heard that? Oh, you have to look it up. It's a modern day treasure hunt. He's like a millionaire or something. And he's buried gold somewhere in the United States. And actively right now, there are...
You need to go hunt for gold.
Yep. There are people who are devoting their lives to finding this gold. And he releases like a new clue every so often.
Oh my gosh.
And I even watched a documentary. It's on Netflix. I think there's a documentary about it now. But there's even I think 3 people have actually lost their lives searching. Like one guy got lost and ended up dying because he couldn't figure out where he was. And
oh my gosh.
It's really...
I do there.
It sounds like something you'd do. Like you'd bury the treasure or you'd go for the treasure.
Then I would die hunting for my way home. I'm about to do that. Just go down to groceries. I'm about to.
Well, Mary, I would say that don't join the hordes of people looking for this treasure because we need more books from you.
If I can't do it from my recliner, I'm probably not going to go on a gold hunt. Not the most ambitious person in the world as far as, treasure hunts.
Treasure hunting, yes. Unless it's storing up treasures in heaven. And then I know that
Yeah.
that's much
Yeah.
more a passion of your heart, which I appreciate.
So anyway, every time they get the boys calmed down and focused and ready to, be serious, mature adults, then it's like there's another clue.
Yeah. And they're off again. Well, that's so consistent though with human nature. Like you just think you're content and then something else comes up and you're struggling with it all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All these worries and all these cares that try to lay down at the feet of Jesus, and then we just pick them right back up again.
Right back up. Yep. Every day. Every day. My mom would always go, well, I made it through this moment. Okay, now I made it through this moment. And she would go, it's just a moment by moment lifestyle when you're living wanting to become more like Christ, she'd say.
There you go. My goodness. So,
I know. Well, this is great. I'm excited to read book 2. Legends of Gold is the title. It comes out in June. It can be pre-ordered at Baker Bookhouse. And is there anything else that you wanted to say about the book or that you wanted to share with the readers?
I just got Annabelle in the Lighthouse, or I don't know.
Tempest at Annabelle's Lighthouse?
Yes, not Annabelle in the Lighthouse, is it? What is it?
Tempest at Annabelle's Lighthouse. So you're close. Yeah.
I lost the Tempest part.
That's okay.
So that's at the top of my list right now, except I got a couple of research books I'm trying to write. So,
well, yeah, those are important too.
Anything else that I should tell you? Oh, probably. I'll probably think of it tonight about 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
So
That's all right. Well, we'll have another go with book 3 then, and you can just jot down your notes and bring it back, and we'll make sure we cover it then.
Next visit with Jaime.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Mary, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for being on the podcast again.
Me on. I really always have a great time. Technology struggles notwithstanding.
Right. But you know what? We roll with it.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes it fun. That's real life.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today here at Madlet Musings. I hope you join us again. And if you want to, be sure you like and subscribe here at your favorite podcast player or on YouTube, because you won't want to miss all the wonderful alerts that let you know when we have another conversation for you to eavesdrop on.